Hello, I hope you are well. My name is Mohammed Arkham, and on behalf of Mass Realty Inc., I humbly welcome you to our presentation. Today, we have an exciting release in our line of service, whether you are a homeowner, an investor, a new home buyer, or a newcomer to Canada. I'd like to introduce you to our Investors Edge program. So before we end up starting this, let's talk a little bit about the company. So about Mass Realty Incorporated, we have been operating in Canada for the last 8 years in Ontario with the expertise for resale of houses and units, all while plowing success in our pre-construction strategies for our clients to reap benefits of. In the resale market, our strategy to negotiate well in terms for our clients, as well as providing crucial advice for investment purposes and doers of our clients. Our goal is to provide the best service and experience possible for our clients and customers. We strive to work and represent our clients with utmost loyalty and respect. So let's talk about the program. So the program actually has many different usages. For example, it's a connection of investors and homeowners together in order to buy a property or hold a property or invest in a property. Within the program itself, there's going to be a connection of resources, for example, lawyers, mortgage agents, real estate agents, inspectors, photographers, etc. The entire purpose of this program is to develop wealth over time by purchasing and holding properties. So here are the pros of the Investor Edge program. The first things first, which I believe is the biggest pro, is that the costs are shared. It means that all of the down payment that you'll be paying is going to be a lot less than when you're playing alone. There's going to be less miscellaneous expenses that you would have to pay for, less property tax payment, and less maintenance expenses. The reason why it's less is because costs are going to be shared. So if there's $300 worth of costs and it's going to be divided amongst three investors, you're only paying $100 instead of $300. So within this holding of the Investors Edge program, you will have your name on the title of the property. After the return of the project, there's actually a great ROI, which is an example of the project which is shown on the spreadsheet, followed by this presentation. This is a great program to get started in real estate investing. It's a great program to get get a foot into the door to own your own property. And if you're working with us, it's going to be a stress-free transaction and an investment with our team. Now, let's talk a little bit about the cons. Now, along with the costs that are being shared, which is a benefit, there's also going to be some cons. For example, profits are going to be shared among other party members. So if there's a profit of 200,000, it's going to be shared among three partners. And then another thing that you're going to be bound by is a contract to hold and sell property for X amount of years. So you have to understand that this is going to be a long-term investment and the yield will come over time. The name on the property will also be shared with other party members, so you will not have that pride of ownership. And if there are any conflicts that arise, the votes will be required upon conflict to form solutions. There's going to be lending fees, which may cost more due to second or more mortgages on the users from the mortgage agent side, but that's nothing that we can control. Now, there's also going to be management fees that are going to be charged, and the parties must pay the management fees to the team, which adds on to the cost. It's not a lot. There are actually a lot more benefits than the cost of the actual program. You will see over time, or you will see in our spreadsheet provided after this presentation. Now, with the Investors Edge program, our team is actually striving to get a large growth per year, with us trying to work towards anywhere between 12 to 15% growth annually year over year. Here are a couple of scenarios where this program actually be very useful. For example, investors buy a pre-construction property and wait for occupancy and decide to sell. This includes either a brand new project from scratch, or it could be an assignment sale. Or if you want, or if the investors would like, they can also sell in the period of assignment. Now, it's best and highly advised for all the new construction properties, pre-construction properties, to hold after occupancies for a larger gain on profit. But that depends highly on the investor's likely scenario. The second scenario is investors buy a pre-construction property, wait for occupancy, and hold for an X amount of period. This is the ideal choice for all investors if they want to make a long-term gain. The investors buy a real estate property and rents it out to other parties for X amount of period. This is a resale market, so that means the house has already been grafted, it's already been ready, it's already been bought or sold previously into the market. And that we would only buy the property and rent it out for an X amount of period. This is our third choice. Our fourth choice is that investors buy a resale property and one of the investors decide to live into the property and pays the rent for X amount of period. This is a very good choice if you are a newcomer to Canada and you lack the funds to buy a home. What would happen is that the costs shared to the point where you are able to sustain a house. So you will only have to pay the rent, which is acceptable by all parties, which is suspectable to market values or market rates. Now, five, investors buy a resale property and one of the investors purchases a unit after X amount of period. The investor will buy based on fair market value price. So if you end up making more money down the road than you had previously, for example, over a course of 5 years, you have the option to buy the property, but you have to pay the fair value amount of the purchase price to the other investors that are linked in together with you. Now that we've moved on from the scenarios, let's talk a little bit about the requirements of our program. The first things first, an agreement will have to be drafted and must be signed by all parties for contract to take in effect. The parties all must sign the agreement to be binding into the program. And after the agreement has been signed, a corporation will be formed in the names of the parties, which will be paid primarily from our own services. Regarding the services, if the members can give us the receipt, we'll be grateful and we can do a reimbursement. Now, there's going to be a majority vote required to sell and hold properties later on down the road in order to take out any sort of conflict. Now, partners of at least three to a maximum of four is required in the residential real estate. If two partners only are allowed in cases of ratio division, meaning that one partner must have 50% plus one, or in terms of contract states to sell property at X year after holding, unless voted by other parties with 100% vote of confidence to hold further, meaning that both parties will have to say yes in order for them to hold further. Otherwise, the property will be sold in year, for example, 2023, if you bought it in 2021. Now, there is a cash requirement to get into the program, and that is going to be 50,000. That means the investors must have at least 50,000 available to invest into the program. An account is created amongst the three investors as a trust account, and this is where mortgage payments, rent collection, and other expenses that require maintenance and upkeep of the property purchase will follow. This is also where all three investors or four investors will be allocating us, the Mass Realty team, in order for us to manage the account and manage the funds properly. We will be providing the parties with transaction history along with the cash flow statements. This is also where we will require submission of credit reports to see if you qualify for any loans or if there's any debt against you. We will also require some personal files, for example, your NOAs, your T4s, etc. This is only to do preliminary searches. Please do not worry about us putting this information out to the public. This is only meant for us, and that is it. Now for the investors, that's service charge. There is going to be a fee that's going to be charged to the parties for our services. And the service charge will include a site location where we will take investors personally to the site from our own vehicles, and we will show them the project and the location of the project. There's going to be project management, which is included within the program, which essentially deals with the pre-approval letter, a photography of the property when we decide to sell the property, discussions and rebuttals with the builder, which will be led by us. We will also be doing the due diligence of the market. Now, along with just the project management, you also have the expertise and advice of our team. Our 8 years experience in the field can be very resourceful for our investors and home buyers. And of course, the biggest thing that I believe is part of the service charge is a connection of resources, making it easier for the homeowners to buy the property. If you have any questions, or if you need further clarity and are interested into the project, please contact Mass Realty Inc., or you can email me at arkham.agent@gmail.com, or please feel free to call me at 647-824-8717. If I'm not available, please call Ghulam Shahid 647-400-9089 or email him at shahidg.homes@gmail.com. Thank you very much for being part of our presentation. I hope you have a wonderful day.